She continued to wish as she watched over Ajir's battle. And at the end of all that pondering, she heard what she thought was a voice. Allow me to help you give shape to that wish a little. This was the ultimate skill Samael, Lord of Deathly Poison. It could detect the weaknesses of any living thing and create a suitable poison to target them, and now that Ultima had this power, she felt she had no chance of losing to anyone. But then she remembered. Wasn't that what Diablo had always told her, to hone her skills and not rely too much on her latent power? She had been losing frequently to Zijin around that time, so she assumed Diablo was just giving her a hard time. He was mean that way. But Ultima had it all wrong. He was probably being sarcastic, yes, but he had her best interests in mind when he said it. He was teaching her, in essence, that the right control over your power could make a world of difference. And once that got through to Ultima, a lot of Diablo's other advice popped into her mind. You can't truly acquire the power you've been given just by calling on it in a pinch. That's really true. Now Ultima was deeply convinced. She was told that not long after she was granted her name, and now she thought it was really true. Come to think of it, Diablo never really used the powers Sir Remure gave him, not unless things were real bad. I thought he just didn't see his enemies as worthy of tasting those attacks, but maybe he had a good reason. So why not her, too, then? Thus Ultima decided to use this opportunity as a way for her to grow. This man Damrada would be a tricky opponent, after all, so he'd be the perfect target to give her all against. Ugh. Look at Diablo, trying to train us by making us fight like this. He really does look down on all of us, doesn't he? If Tessa finds that out, she's gonna cause a lot of trouble for us, huh? But then again, maybe Tessa went along with it. But, well, since we're here and all, I might as well take advantage. Even Damrada, a doubtlessly strong opponent, was merely a training partner to Ultima. She was determined to use her ultimate skill against him, the product of her long-held wishes, to win this out, and she was sure it'd be a growing experience for her. So she swore to herself that she'd win not with the powers she had without asking, but by perfectly applying the abilities she had obtained through her own desires. Then, she thought, she could prove it. She wouldn't be wishing it any longer, she really would be useful to Remure. The battle was reaching its peak intensity. Ultima had the power advantage with her attacks, but Damrada's techniques parried them away. Occasionally he could even focus his entire body's fighting spirit to cancel out the attack head-on. That was the fundamental power of Damrada, thinking on his feet and never wasting a movement. It was honestly impressive and fascinating to Ultima. It helped her realize a great many things mid-battle. I see. So this kind of flow won't put you off balance. I bet this would work on Zijin as well. Zijin was just too much. The moment Ultima approached him, she'd get knocked to the ground. On the field, battle training was one thing, but when it came to martial arts practice, he wasn't a suitable sparring partner. Along those lines, Damrada was a nice, approachable rival, the best person for her to fight against. Now Ultima realized how fortunate she was. With overwhelming magical power, she could easily defend against any attack, and on offense, she could crush any enemy by brute force alone. She thought she knew that, but now it actually began to feel that way, and as both sides increased their power, the battle grew more and more ferocious. The powers were so closely balanced, there was no telling when the battle was going to end, or, at least, it seemed that way at a glance. Ahaha. What fun. I never would have lasted this long in a training session with Zijin. Ultima looked like she was truly enjoying herself. Damrada, by contrast, looked like this whole affair disgusted him. You treat a fight against me as a training session. You truly do look down upon me. But despite his words, even Damrada knew it deep down. If this kept up, he would be the one who lost. Ultima was still growing, but Damrada was already giving her everything he had, all of his technique at once. There was no time to enjoy this. All that mattered was how he would ever defeat her. Primals, after all, were like the chosen ones of magic. No half-hearted attack could ever work against someone capable of writing the physical laws of this planet. Only through applying the ultimate enchantment alternate to all of his attacks could Damrada inflict any damage on Ultima. He has spent over 2 millennia training himself, growing capable of using this borrowed power the way you breathe. It was so familiar to Damrada now that he had all but forgotten Ludora had lent it to him in the first place. Besides, demons had certain checks placed on them. There was a set limit to their magicule counts, although that seemed to be unlocked at the moment. As a result, someone sane class like Damrada had more overall energy on hand than Ultima, hence why he could keep it even with her. The more I attack, the more I expose my hand, after all. But I doubt any of my more powerful finishers would work against her anyway. So, I can't win. Damrada expended a bone-crushing effort to acquire his technique, but Ultima could just steal it after a single glance. It would have been better if he went on a quick attack to end this in a hurry, but he knew that could leave him open and vulnerable to self-imploding. Ultima was still launching multiple attacks at once, all with the same mind-boggling force, and he was still cancelling them all out at the same time, but that didn't seem to frustrate his foe. In fact, Ultima looked happy. That's so good. Like a textbook example. Being told that made Damrada far more frustrated instead. He was in the corner. Not only was he in no position to hold anything back, but as soon as he showed any new move, he could feel Ultima growing off of it, like a pile of dry sand sucking up water. Ha ha ha. All I can do is laugh. It was true. Damrada had no idea that primals were such terrifying things. An external observer would think their abilities were balanced against each other, but that balance was about to fall apart shortly. As long as one side of the fight continued growing, the scales were bound to tip sooner or later. That was the stark reality, and now the moment was here. Haha. Now I'm really starting to get it. The change in Ultima's mood was clear as she shouted. Until now she had been storing up her powers so she could focus on stealing Damrada's moves. Now that power was released and behind her sprouted 6 pairs of featherless bat-like wings, a shining light purple in color. Here we go. With that, the 12 wings began to move at once, changing shape in a multitude of ways as they aimed themselves at Damrada. Some were thin as blades, some sharp as needles, some formed fist-like mounts. The constant changes made it difficult to even attempt to mad dash away from them, much less try to deal with them. Damrada, trying to parry a fist-like wing, was blown away once the fists crossed each other. The power was incomparable to anything before, too severe for Damrada to cancel out, and it was increasing rapidly. There was no longer any upper limit to her magicule count, and no sign of this rapid increase slowing down at all. She could make herself literally as powerful as she wished. Tisk. Ah ha 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 ha. I just love that kind of facial expression. Don't sass me, little girl. Your power is amazing, but it doesn't matter if you can't hit me. Damrada had required more focus than ever before to avoid that attack. He acted unaffected, but inside, he began to feel a sense of deep urgency. If this continued, there was no way to win, but Ultima left no holes open. If she didn't, Damrada would just have to poke one open, and so he resorted to desperate actions. One of the wings pierced Damrada's leg. It looked like a failure on his part, but that was exactly what his strategy was. A race like the demons, prone to boasting about their mighty power, was just as prone to arrogance. Even Ultima would let this put her off guard, and if Damrada could catch that, he was sure of victory. Ah ha 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 ha. I thought you were gonna just keep dodging me. Or did you get tired? With a wicked grin, Ultima relaxed her attack and began taunting Damrada. Her wings went on the move, plunging into his limbs, but not his vitals. Yes, I know it. You're all strong. That's why you look down upon us, and dig your own graves at the final moment. Damrada was sure his plan would succeed. Then, pretending to be wounded and fallen, he unleashed an all-out strike against Ultima. Holy smash fist. This was his most powerful of finisher moves, a skill that took all his fighting spirit as a saint, and used alternate to compress it into a single strike. Even the most powerful evil demon would be permanently extinguished by it, and without a body to inhabit, Ultima the primal would be forced to vanish. Damrada felt he had won, but there would be no victorious afterglow today. Just as he was about to finish Ultima off, he felt a chill for some reason. All that fell away was a single wing. It seemed to change shape, imitating Ultima herself, but Damrada couldn't see it, and then it was too late. Poison smash fist. Ultima had punched through Damrada's chest. Her hand was infused with an enormous amount of magic force, as she executed an open-hand spear strike, much as Damrada had. But with the ultimate skill Samael added to the mix, she was able to control it perfectly, the deathly poison from Samael, turning her 5 fingernails a dark purple. It was well beyond a lethal dose, and it crushed Damrada's defenses. Damrada fell, vomiting blood. Ah ha 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 ha. Too bad, huh? I was right on target. The evil laughter echoed. Damrada tried getting up again but failed. His entire body was so drained of energy that he could barely close a fist, much less stand up. But still he gathered his strength and stared at Ultima. That is no smash fist, you fool. It was a spear hand strike. As if you could copy me after just one look. But the power behind it was excellent. Call it bloody death hand instead, perhaps. Damrada gazed upward, a satisfied look on his face as he beheld the sky, and remorsefully chuckled to himself. He was completely defeated. Long before he could challenge Guy to a final battle, the demon lord Remuer's forces had crushed him. Perhaps some of the Empire's elites would survive, but it would be impossible to rebuild their position. Emperor Lidor has no time left to wait for the next opportunity. Before that, he needs to